hands resting on the tops of our thighs, just relaxing through those elbows, through those shoulders. And then just start by closing down the eyes and just drawing that attention to the breath. So just noticing the rise and fall of your belly and the expansion of the chest. And just noticing the position of your shoulders. So just noticing if you're holding any tension or if they could be released further down from the ears. Maybe you're kind of hugging them. I know my shoulders are really tense today. And then on the inhale, just consciously drawing the belly button back towards the spine and growing out through the crown of the head. Really lengthening the spine. And then on the exhale, just consciously dropping the shoulders down away from the ears. And then actively lengthening that breath. So just firstly noticing the natural rhythm. And then actively and consciously slowing down those inhales and slowing down those exhales. So you're sending more oxygen around the body. And just creating that space for yourself. And just attempting to find some stillness. Even if that stillness isn't around you. Just some stillness within. And then keeping your eyes closed, if you like, or opening them up if that feels more comfortable, a bit safer. Inhale as you just look up towards the ceiling, feeling that stretch in the front of the neck. And then exhale, taking your chin towards your chest. So feeling a nice stretch down the back of your neck. And then inhale back to center. Take another inhale, and as you exhale, turn your gaze to look over your left shoulder, but keeping those shoulders parallel and pulling those shoulders down away from the ears. So aiming to get that chin over towards the left. And inhale back to center. And exhale, take your gaze over towards the right. Inhale back to center. And then taking some shoulder rolls. So rolling those shoulders forwards, inhale as you take them back and up, and exhale as you drop them forwards and down. Maybe coming up onto those fingertips on your thighs. And then taking it in the other direction, so inhale, the shoulders forwards and up, and exhale, down and back. And just noticing any clicks, any stiffness. And then sitting your hips towards the left. So that's kind of why I said to start kneeling, just so we can, so coming onto the left side with your knees bent and then your feet towards the right. And planting your left hand down onto the mat. We'll inhale, sweep that right arm up. And gaze up at that right palm, maybe taking a bend into that left elbow. And then we'll inhale, sweep that right hand down, plant those fingertips onto the mat, and sweeping that left arm up. And feeling a really nice stretch down that left hand side. And dropping that left hand down again. Inhale, sweep the right up. Maybe taking it a bit deeper. Just going at your own pace. Just enjoying these side stretches. And then inhale, back to center. And then coming up, we'll go the other side. So coming back to kneeling and then taking those hips to the left. So we plant our right hand down on whichever side you haven't done. I know it's a bit funny with the mirroring. So planting that right hand down and inhale, sweeping the left up, gazing up at that palm, maybe taking a bend into that elbow if that feels good, or if not, just keeping that arm straight. And exhale, drop those left fingertips, inhale that right arm up. Notice any differences on this side. We can definitely feel a bit more tension. Definitely not quite as free. But just taking it at your own pace, maybe holding it slightly in the stretch or working with more movement. Just whatever feels good for you this evening. And then exhale, back through center. We'll come up onto our heels again, but this time, in fact, I'll turn this way so you can see. We'll tuck our toes underneath and sit on our heels. So this can feel really uncomfortable if you're not used to it. It's a nice toe stretch. So make sure that little toe is tucked under because sometimes it can be forgotten about. And we'll inhale, sweeping those arms up, gazing up at those fingertips, palms to touch, interlace the hands, and then turn the palms to face the ceiling. Gazing up, and then exhale, bringing those hands in front, space between the shoulders, chin to chest, lowering all the way down, and inhale all the way back up again, gazing up at that palm, and then turning those palms to face, stretching through those fingers, and exhale, dropping those hands down, chin to chest, space between the shoulders. And then we'll interlace our hands behind our backs. Try to squeeze the heels of the hands together as you lengthen your fist towards the floor and really shine through the chest. Gaze is forward, maybe even taking it up towards the ceiling, squeezing those shoulder blades together. Inhale here, and exhale, we'll take a bow. So taking your crown of the head onto the mat and then lengthening those hands up overhead, squeezing those shoulders. And inhale, coming back into that toe stretch, release those hands. Take the knees as wide as the mat, big toes to touch, sinking those sit bones down onto the heels, and we'll come into our child's pose. Massaging the forehead into the mat, releasing any tension in that neck. And coming up onto the fingertips. So engaging the fingertips into the mat, switching on those arms and working into the shoulders. And then connect with your breath here. So consciously lengthening those inhales and those exhales. And just pausing here, enjoying this stretch. And take an inhale, and on your next exhale, we'll come up into our tabletop. So hands under the shoulders, knees under the hips. Bring the knees in so they're hip width apart. Flatten the tops of the feet onto the mat, and we'll take our cat-cow. So we'll inhale as we drop the belly, take the gaze up to the ceiling. And then exhale, pushing through the hands, rounding the spine, chin to chest, engage that core, pull the belly button back towards the spine. And then inhale, reverse that action. And just taking a few of these in time with your own breath. Warming up that spine, warming up the neck, warming up the shoulders. And then take any movement that feels good for you. So maybe swaying out those hips from side to side, releasing any tension where you can feel it. Maybe getting a bit creative with some of the movements, bending into the arms, just whatever feels good for you. And then coming back to neutral, we'll walk our hands towards the top two corners of the mat. Inhale as you gaze forward, and then exhale, sinking the chest down, taking the forehead onto the mat, lengthening through those arms. Coming into our puppy dog pose. So hips over the knees. Keep a bend in those knees. And just relaxing here. Working into those shoulders, maybe coming up onto the fingertips. Just to increase the intensity of the pose. Or seeing if you can take your chin to the mat. Working further into those shoulders. And we'll take an inhale. And as you exhale, walk those hands towards you again, into that neutral position. Take another inhale, and as we exhale, we'll tuck those toes under, send the hips high, and we'll come into our first downward dog. So pushing into the heels of those hands again, keeping the knees bent to start with, so you can focus on that alignment. So we want one long line from your tailbone all the way down to the crown of the head. Head in line with those upper arms, maybe even take a sway out so you can feel it there. And then start to work into your legs in time with that breath. So pedaling out the feet, keeping the alignment of those shoulders and the spine the same. And just enjoying that stretch in the back of your legs before finding some stillness. So either keeping a bend in those knees, just to drop that intensity, or seeing if you can lower those heels towards the mat, straightening through the legs, finding that downward dog pose, and then connecting with that breath. So like we did at the start, like we do in child's pose, just consciously be aware of that breath and be aware of trying to lengthen it, lengthen those inhales and those exhales through the nose. And taking a deep inhale, and as you exhale, we'll step our feet forward, just bit by bit, step by step towards our hands, and then taking hold of opposite elbows, we'll take a sway from side to side, releasing any tension here. Or maybe you just want to hang, maybe that feels better. Or maybe taking some bounces. Staying with that breath. And then releasing those elbows, we'll take an inhale as we fold all the way up, sweeping those arms up, palms to touch overhead. Then exhale, hands through heart center, we'll fold all the way forwards again. So back into that forward fold. And this time we'll bend the knees, plant both hands in front of the feet. Really pushing that mat away, so straighten through the arms as you bend through the knees. And then we'll take an inhale as we straighten the right leg and sweep that right arm up towards the ceiling, coming into a nice twist. And exhale, take that right hand down, plant the right hand down, and inhale, we'll go the other side, so straighten the left leg as you take that left arm up. And again, just a few of these in your own time. Maybe staying into the twist for a bit more time if that feels good. Or being a bit more dynamic with it. Just whatever is working for you this evening. And then we'll come back into that forward fold, bending through the knees, pushing the mat away with the palms of your hands, taking your nose towards your knees, engaging that core. And then we'll inhale, coming into our flat back, so straighten the legs, hands onto the shins, gaze forward, and exhale, fold. And this time, maybe seeing if you can take your peace fingers around your big toes, taking a bend in the arms, making sure you've got your weight in the balls of your feet. Or if that's too strong, keeping a bend in those knees. So just doing what feels good for you. Both is beneficial. Bend in the knees really helps with the lower back. Straightening the legs helps with those hamstrings, the backs of the legs, and also the lower back. So there's no competition here to have these straight legs, folded body, head on the floor. And just stay with that breath. Maybe easing up on the inhale. And then sinking into the pose on the exhale. And then we'll inhale into that flat back again. So straight legs, squeezing those shoulder blades together. Exhale, fold. And then inhale, sweep those arms all the way up. Gaze at those fingertips and exhale, hands to heart center. And we'll pause here, just adjusting to the standing position. Allowing the blood just to drain from the head. Allowing for any dizziness, maybe close down the eyes. And then taking our attention back to our alignment again. So tucking the tailbone ever so slightly, pulling up on the kneecaps, dropping the shoulders, lengthening through the crown of the head. Weight equal between both feet. And maybe try lifting your toes up and then lifting the second toe and the third until all the toes are off the mat. And then try placing your toes, little toes down and folding each toe back on the mat one by one. This might seem really impossible if you've never done it before, but it's a real kind of one of these yogic mindfulness activities. The more you practice it, the more actually it's possible to do. This is better done in a class in person. But just in time with your breath, just practice taking each toe off the mat. Really great for the balance, and then placing them back down. And then we'll inhale and we'll all come up onto tiptoes. And then exhale back down. Inhale onto tiptoes. Exhale back down. Inhale onto tiptoes. Exhale back down, and this time we'll inhale, drop the hands, sweep them up overhead. And exhale, opening up. Diving down, leading with the chest, folding all the way down into that forward fold. And we'll inhale to our flat back and gaze forward. Exhale, fold, planting the hands, and we'll step back to our first plank. So just adjusting here, hands underneath the shoulders, really pushing into your heels. Tuck that tailbone like we did in our standing posture. Find space between the shoulders. And again, one long line from those heels all the way up to the crown of the head. Option here to drop those knees. Exactly the same theory. Tuck the tailbone, engage the core, push through the shoulders. And we'll hold it here. And again, option to hold here. We'll take an inhale, and as you exhale, lift the left foot up. So we're floating that left foot. And as you do so, try to keep those hips level. And holding here for 3, 2, 1. Drop those toes down and we'll go the other side. So take an inhale. And as you exhale, float that right foot up. 3, 2, 1. Drop those right toes, and then one more the other side. So float the left toes up, the 3, 2, really push into that right heel as you do so. Drop those toes, and we'll inhale that right foot up. Really tough. 3, 2, 1. Drop those toes down, knees as wide as the mat, and we'll sink ourselves back to child's pose, just for a breath or two, just to release. And release the tension in the back and maybe the neck, so massaging that forehead into the mat. And we'll take another inhale, and as we exhale, walking those hands forward, tuck the toes under, we'll come back into our plank. Again, option to drop to those knees. And then this time, take an inhale, and as you exhale, take your right hand to your left shoulder, and then drop it down. And then left hand to right shoulder, and drop it down. So again, we're trying to keep our hips as still and as square as possible. Again, absolutely possible to do with the knees on the mat, exactly the same. And we'll be here for 10. Really hard. 9. So good for the core though. 8. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3. Good work, everyone. 2. 1. And we'll sink back to child's pose. So big toes to touch, knees as wide as the mat. Take that forehead onto the mat, massage it out. Release the tension in the back. Pausing here, just for a breath or two. We'll take an inhale, and as we exhale, walk those hands forward. We're coming back into our plank. It's not over yet. Back to that alignment. Pushing into the heels or hands, pushing into your heels. Tuck the tailbone. We'll take an inhale, and as you exhale, drop the knees to a hover, and inhale back up. So we're hovering the knees and up, and we'll do 10, 9, 8. Make sure you tuck that tailbone so you're not sinking into the lower back. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Holding that plank, take an inhale, and as you exhale, drop to the knees, lowering all the way down, keeping those elbows tucked into the torso. And then we inhale to our baby cobra, so pushing the hands underneath the shoulders, squeezing those elbows to the back of the room, point through the toes, engage the glutes so that you protect that lower back. And then we exhale, push through the hands, come up through that tabletop, chin to chest, tuck the toes under, and we're sending those hips high. We're into our downward dog. And we inhale and exhale here. Sending that breath around the body. Take an inhale, and as you exhale, take your hands towards you by a pace or two, and then heel toe your feet so they're as wide as the mat. So we're in a kind of shortened, wider downward dog. And take an inhale here, and as you exhale, see if you can take your right hand towards your left shin or your left ankle. So we're pulling our torso underneath that left armpit. It's just a nice one for the hamstrings. And staying here for a breath. And then releasing that right hand. Take an inhale, and we'll go the other side. So taking our left hand onto that right calf or right ankle. deep inhales and exhales. And releasing, placing that left hand back down, and then swaying the hips from side to side. So just releasing any tension there. And then taking your feet back so they're hip width apart. Walking your hands forward again, another couple of paces, back into our downward dog. We'll take an inhale, and as we exhale, we'll step our feet towards our hands into that forward fold. Maybe taking opposite elbows again into that ragdoll, releasing it out. And then release those elbows, inhale, gaze forward to that flat back. Exhale, fold. And we'll inhale, sweep those arms up, gaze up at the fingertips. And exhale, hands to heart center. And just resetting here. So take that attention to your breath again, squeezing the thumbs into the sternum, dropping the shoulders, pushing through the feet, growing out through the crown of the head. And we'll inhale to release those hands again, sweeping them up overhead as you gaze at those fingertips. Then exhale, diving forwards, leading with the chest, coming all the way into that forward fold. And we'll inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold, plant the hands and step walk or hop yourselves into your plank. And inhale here. And as you exhale, either drop into your knees, chin, chest again, or bending at the elbows, lowering all the way down. And inhale, coming onto the tops of the feet, pushing through the hands, coming into your baby cobra or your full cobra. And taking an inhale here. And as you exhale, gaze over that left shoulder towards the back of the room. Inhale, back to center. Have I frozen? Have I frozen? Or is it someone else? No, I'm good. Okay, sorry. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, gaze over your right shoulder. Inhale, back to center. And tuck those toes under. Send those hips high. And we'll come back into that downward dog. Pausing here for that inhale and that exhale. And then either step, walk, or hop yourselves towards the top of the mat. So inhale, bending those knees if you want to go for the hop. And exhale, hopping those feet towards your hands. And we'll inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold, planting the hands. And then this time, stepping your left foot back, but turning those toes in a bit. So they're pointing towards the left corner of the room. And we'll inhale, release those hands, sweeping them all the way up, keeping a bend in that right knee. We're coming into our warrior one. And exhale, dropping those hands behind you, interlacing the fingers. Inhale as you squeeze those palms together, shining that chest forwards. Squeezing those shoulder blades. And exhale, we'll fold, taking our right shoulder to meet our right knee, but without collapsing into it. So keeping that core strong. And we'll inhale, release the hands as we sweep them all the way up. And exhale, we'll open out to the left, coming into a twist. And we'll inhale, up to center. And then exhale, opening out to the right. Inhale, up through center. And then exhale, taking our hands to heart center, twisting on the back of that foot. We'll prepare to come into our balance, into our warrior three. So take an inhale, and as you exhale, float that left foot up. Woo. And folding forwards, coming into our lovely balance. Working into this right glute. So really grounding into that right foot. Flexing those back toes, so they're pointing down towards the mat. So we're keeping those hips square. Taking an inhale here, and as you exhale, prepare to land that left foot down. And inhale, sweeping those arms up again. And we'll exhale, we'll open out as we twist on that left foot, so turning those left toes in. And we're in our warrior two. So right knee bent, hands are at shoulder height, gazing over those fingertips. And then we'll inhale, dropping that left hand down and sweeping that right up overhead, gazing up at that left palm, feeling that lovely stretch there. And then we'll inhale as we windmill those hands all the way down, framing that front foot and pivoting on the back foot. So we're in our low lunge and stepping ourselves back into a plank. And we'll inhale here, and as we exhale, bending at those elbows, lowering down. Inhale onto the tops of the feet, coming into that back bend. And again, taking an inhale, and as you exhale, gaze over that left shoulder. Inhale, back through center, and exhale, gaze over that right shoulder. Inhale, back through center, and exhale, tuck those toes under, sending the hips high. And we're coming back into our downward dog. And taking an inhale as you hover the knees and gaze forward. And as you exhale, step, walk, or hop yourselves towards the top of the mat. And we'll inhale, flat back. Exhale, fold. And we'll inhale, sweeping those arms all the way up. Gaze up at those fingertips. Then exhale, folding all the way forwards, and we'll go through that flow on the other side. So planting the hands, and we step back with our right foot this time, turning those right toes in, and we inhale, sweeping those arms up. So we're in our warrior one on this left side. So really trying to square off those hips towards the top of the mat. Squeezing the right glute. Shoulders down away from the ears. Then we take an inhale here, and as you exhale, release those hands down. Interlace the fingers behind you. Inhale. As you drop those hands down, shine the chest forward. And then exhale, taking a fold. So we take our left shoulder towards that left knee. But again, engaging through that core so we're not collapsing down into it. And lengthening those hands up overhead. Breathing here. Enjoying this intensity. And we'll inhale, sweeping those arms up. And exhale, we'll open out to the right. So coming into that twist. And inhale, back to center, lengthening those hands back up. And exhale, taking a twist to the left. Inhale, back up. And exhale, hands to heart center. Coming into that high lunge on the ball of that back left foot. Taking an inhale here, and as you exhale, we'll float that left foot up, folding forwards, coming into this warrior three, this balance, engaging the core, back toes pointing down towards the mat, almost like you're trying to push the back wall away with the sole of that back foot. And taking an inhale here. And as you exhale, dropping that back foot down. Inhale, floating those arms up. And exhale, we'll open out to our warrior two. So turning those right toes in, that right foot in, bending through that left knee. Palms facing the mat. Really engaging through those arms. Gaze over those left fingertips. And then we'll inhale, drop that right hand down as we sweep the left up, Gaze up at the palm, reversing that warrior. Taking an inhale here, and as you exhale, we'll windmill those arms down, framing that front foot, pivoting on that back foot. Take an inhale here, and as you exhale, we step back to our plank position. Taking another inhale here, and as you exhale, bend those elbows, come through that vinyasa. So inhale into that back bend. And take another inhale here. And as you exhale, we'll take that gaze over the left shoulder again. Inhale back through center. Exhale, gaze over the right shoulder. Inhale back through center. And exhale, tuck those toes under. Send those hips high. And we're in our downward facing dog. And taking that attention back to the breath. So the rise and fall of the belly. And taking one last inhale, and as you exhale, take a mini jump through the hands, cross through the ankles, and we'll come to a seated position. And then taking a bend in the knees, soles of the feet into the mat. We'll take our hands behind us, fingertips facing towards the front of the mat. And we're going to come up into a reverse tabletop. So this really works into the shoulders, into the core. So you might want to walk your feet towards you. Just find a position where you feel like it's possible to lift those hips. So we'll inhale as we squeeze the shoulder blades together before we even start to lift the hips, keeping the gaze forward. Take another inhale, and then as you exhale, lift those hips up, really pushing through the hands, squeezing the glutes, gaze up towards the ceiling. Try to relax that neck. Try to push that core up. Holding it here, staying with the breath. Taking an inhale, and as you exhale, dropping those hips down and swaying those knees out from side to side. So just releasing that tension, having a little windscreen wipe. And then we'll go again. So you might feel like you want to adjust your position. And we'll inhale again. So squeezing those shoulder blades together, getting ready to lift those hips. Take another inhale, and then as you exhale, send those hips up, really squeezing those glutes. Release that tension in the neck. So try to hang that head back. Really squeeze the shoulder blades, push through those hands. So uncomfortable. Take an inhale here, and as you exhale, release those hips down and sway those knees out from side to side. And we'll go one more time. So either into that position again, or option to extend those legs forward, point the toes, and inhale as you squeeze those shoulder blades again. Take another inhale, and then as you exhale, raise the hips. Really pointing through the toes, squeezing the glutes, squeezing those shoulder blades. Release the neck. For 3, for 2, for 1. And releasing down. Hugging those knees in. Growing tall. Really lengthening out through the crown of the head. And we'll send that right leg long. And hugging that left knee in even more, so taking the heel towards that left glute. And wrapping our right hand round that left knee, dropping those fingertips behind, and we'll take a gaze over that left shoulder. Really nice releasing twist. And inhale here, and as you exhale, release. And we'll go the other side, so hugging that right knee in this time, and wrapping the left arm around that right knee, dropping the fingertips behind, gazing over that shoulder. Really concentrating on lengthening out through the crown of the head and engaging the core. So you're growing tall. And taking an inhale, and as you exhale, release that right leg, sending it long. Then we'll come down onto our backs and we'll hug our knees into our chest. Maybe taking a mini rock from side to side, or circling the knees in one direction and then the other. So just releasing any tension in that lower back. And then taking a happy baby. So shining the soles of the feet up towards the ceiling and taking hold of the outside edges of the feet. And again, taking a sway from side to side. Really releasing that tension. And we'll take an inhale, and as you exhale, send those legs long. Shine the palms of your hands towards the ceiling. And allow your feet just to relax out towards the sides of the mat. Coming into our final pose, our Shavasana. And just take your attention back to that breath. But just allowing your breath to rise and fall naturally. And then sinking into the mat on every exhale. Just allowing any tension in those muscles just to dissipate. Just feeling supported by the earth, by the mat beneath you. And again, taking that attention to the breath, so the rise and fall of the belly. And creating that stillness for yourself, that space for yourself within. And then in your own time, just taking some movement into your toes and your fingers, your ankles and your wrists. And inhale, taking those arms overhead, interlacing the fingers, pointing through the index fingers, pointing through the toes. Lovely long pencil stretch. Deep inhale and exhale, taking your hands behind your knees and taking some rock and rolls up the length of the mat. Just massaging the spine into the mat below. And coming up to seated, or just coming up to seated if that's uncomfortable. Just find a comfortable seated position, cross-legged or lengthening those legs out in front of you. And taking your hands onto your knees. And then we'll take our hands to heart center and rub our palms together. So creating that heat. And then taking those palms over your eyes, maybe over your forehead, maybe over your heart center. Just transferring that energy to those areas. And we'll take a deep inhale into the nose and exhale, sighing it out through the mouth and taking our hands to heart center. Namaste. Thank you, everybody. Well done.